Hi everyone, and welcome to my brand new podcast, All or Nothing with Anita Nicole. I'm so excited to share this journey with you as I introduce you to people who share some of their lifelong stories. I hope their stories inspire you and ultimately help you to elevate your life. This has been a lifelong passion of mine, so I really hope you enjoy this podcast. I look forward to the feedback, and if you have any questions or comments, please do share. Now it's time for us to elevate together. Hi, Charlene.
Hi.
Thank you for being a guest on my podcast today. So, for those listening, can you give me an explanation on who you are, your background, and what you do?
Okay, so my name's Charlene Douglas. So I'm a psychodynamic counsellor and I specialise in sex and relationships.
Mm-hmm. What is it about therapy that made you want to study it and help others this way?
So I've come from a Black Caribbean culture.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely love my culture. I'll start by saying that before I say anything else. But, you know, within the culture, I think, sometimes sweep things under the carpet, so we don't always deal with things.
Mm-hmm.
I was always quite an inquisitive child. So I was the one that would ask why something is the way it is.
Mm.
But, you know, in the Caribbean culture, you kind of taught, like, don't ask questions, it is what it is. And this was before internet times as well. So I think I was just always very curious. I remember times being at school and seeing, like, a teacher behave in a particular way and then think, why are they doing that? Oh, I know, they're doing that because the other teacher's watching them, right? What's that about? And I remember being quite young and kind of analysing things in that way.
Yeah.
And same with all the other careers I've had before I did this job as a therapist, that I'd look at, like, managers and other colleagues and kind of be wondering why they're doing what they do. And, but then there was no real place for that in the workplace, and some of the workplaces I worked in. So yeah, that kind of really encouraged me to kind of do this, really. And now I'm my own boss as well, which is something that I always wanted to do.
Amazing.
I don't have to answer to anyone. So yeah, so that's kind of inspired me, really.
Nice. It sounds great. Why do you think people should go to therapy? And is it just for people going through something, or would you recommend it as something to incorporate into your life, even if you're not struggling with something at the moment?
I think, you know, when you look at things like our physical health, we go to the gym, you know, because it helps us to feel good.
Yeah.
It helps us to look better. It's a shame that people don't have the same mentality when it comes to mental health as well. So people will just stay in a situation for weeks, months, years on end in distress and will never share it with anyone. Yeah. And they become more and more depressed, more and more anxious. And, you know, sometimes just a few sessions with a therapist, someone who doesn't know your story, someone who doesn't know your family or your friends, that's just focusing on you and isn't saying things like, oh, that was just like me when that happened and ... you know, but they're actually having a conversation whereby they're just focusing on you. It's amazing how positive that is. And, you know, a lot of therapists, myself included, also have our own counsellors as well. So we've also got that space that we can talk about whatever's going on for us. Yeah. So it's a phenomenal space. I mean, you know, you can have one session with a counsellor and they could not have said that much, but you could just go out feeling so different and relieved and ready to kind of start your day. Yeah. So I'd really promote it for everybody. I think it's fantastic.
Nice. That's a really good answer. Why do you think most therapists ask about their client's childhood, and why is someone's early years so important to the current outlook on life?
Well, there's a concept called the inner child, and so although we're adults as we go about our day, there's that small child still in us. You know, the child that wants to play, the child that wants to be naughty or be rebellious or wants to get one up on somebody. Yeah. It's still very much there. So I think it's really important to kind of tap into who that person is, because I think we can become so used to being the adult, being mature, denying how we really feel to get on with it, that we forget what, like, our heart is really saying, or we forget about that anxious part of us or that sad part of us. And I think if you forget about that enough, or you try to avoid it, it just intensifies. Yeah. It becomes overwhelming. Yeah. Also, I think looking into someone's childhood helps someone to kind of understand where they've come from. You know, sometimes we can blame ourselves for reacting in a particular way, but if that's all we've been taught, either directly or indirectly by our parents or by school teachers or our siblings, then how can we operate in any way other than what we've learned? Yeah. So, therapy helps people to recognize maybe where some of their patterns of behavior come from.
Yeah.
But also helps them to kind of think about, okay, what do I want out of my life? Like, what do I want to be? Like,
Yeah.
how do I want to react to a situation so that they don't repeat the same patterns that they learn in childhood in new relationships?
Yeah, and that's so important. It's true. Like, you have to understand where you've come from to know where you're going.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And also, sometimes people become so frustrated when they're in relationships and they notice that they're behaving like their mum, for example.
Yeah.
And it's the same behaviour that they didn't like as a child, but they don't know why they're operating from that same place. And so sometimes it's like going to therapy where it's discussed, where you're like, wow, I need to not do that anymore.
Yeah, and unlearn some things.
Right. And so when you're then in a situation where you notice that you're being like, let's say, for example, your mother, you notice it and think, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. And it's gradual change. And the more you talk about it in therapy, the more you realise, I'm going to stop this behaviour. And you start to stop it bit by bit. It's not automatic, it is gradual.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, you've had X number of years where you've learned a particular way of doing something. So you can't click your fingers necessarily and change.
Yeah.
But it's about noticing it and taking that time to change and be who you really want to be.
Yeah, that's incredible. What do you think is the most important quality in a mental health therapist when you're like seeking one?
That's an interesting question. I'd say it's just important to listen to your instinct, because it's about personality. It's about the energy between you and the therapist.
Yeah.
Some people are okay with a therapist that's quite straight-faced and doesn't use humor in their sessions at all, and they ask questions like, what are your thoughts, what do you feel about that, and they put it back on the client. Some clients prefer a situation where you've got a therapist that uses their personality a little bit more, where they are use a bit of humor, or they use props or resources. I work in that way, so I'm a bit rebellious, but I don't know, ain't no other way to be but rebellious, in terms of being authentic, and I think that clients want that. It's really important. So I think in terms of what you look for, I'd say just make sure you feel heard, make sure you feel respected, make sure you don't feel judged. Because it's important, if you're paying for that space as well, that you can explore with the therapist your deepest, darkest secrets at the right time. Because that's where the healing comes from, being able to kind of say it. And work through it with somebody. If you're paying for a space and you feel like, I don't know if I can say that to her, I don't know if I can say that to him, they might judge me, or I saw their face expression was a little bit weird, then that's probably a sign that that may not be the right therapist for you.
Do you think Black people should go to a Black therapist? Do you think there's a level of understanding there that they should seek?
I think some people think that. And sometimes it's true. But I think that equally, sometimes some Black people have said that going to a Black therapist can make them feel even more judged. So, for example, let's just say, say Nigerian, for example, it's a smaller community. So, a Nigerian client might say something that they know in Nigerian culture isn't acceptable. So to say it to a Nigerian therapist, they might feel an energy that feels a bit off, or they might see a face expression that makes them feel uncomfortable. So I think whether it's race or whether it's age, because sometimes age plays a part as well. Someone feels like a therapist might be quite young, may not understand them, or a therapist might be quite much older than them and may not understand where they're coming from. It's just about being authentic to yourself, I think, and being real with yourself, and being okay if what you're saying is, you want to be with a Black therapist or you want to be with an Asian therapist, whatever it may be. But just listening to what your heart's saying, really, it's really important.
That's a really good point. Regarding some Black people in the community, therapy is still something that many don't believe in. What would you say to them in regards for how it can help them navigate their lives and relationships?
I'd say try it. I'd say, you don't have to commit to 10 sessions, 20 sessions. Try it for one session, meet with one therapist, see if that works. If it doesn't work, try maybe another therapist for another session, see if it works. It's that whole, try it and then make a judgment on whether it works for you or not. it's not for everyone. It isn't for everyone. But I would also say that the older generation, the older Black generation, Caribbean and African, you know, they wouldn't usually go to a therapist to get help. They would talk to each other, like within the family unit, or they'd go to church, or they'll turn to religion, for example. That has worked for some. But for so many more, it hasn't worked. So I would say be open to trying something new. And seeing how it works, and just seeing if it does work. You know, therapy isn't like what we see on TV, where you've got the therapist at the side of the bed or on the couch, you know, and then the client lying down with their eyes closed. You know, it's not that anymore. I mean, it can be that, but it's not that anymore. There's so many different types of therapy now. There's therapy, play therapy, drama therapy, art therapy. You know, there's all these different trauma techniques that they can try out. There's psychosexual therapy, psychodynamic, person-centered, CBT. The list goes on. So you can find out what works for you. And go with that. But I would say try it. I think for me, it's better than going to the gym.
That is some good advice.
The gym is good.
That's so funny. You touched on this a bit before. Being someone that listens to so many heavy issues on a day-to-day basis, does it ever take its toll on you personally? And how do you manage to stay in a good headspace and separate your own mental health from your clients?
Good question. Lots of questions in that one question then. I'd say that, so as I said a little bit earlier, so I have my own counsellor as well. So anything that is affecting me, I will bring up there. I don't talk about my clients because it's confidential, but I might talk about general themes that maybe are having an effect on me, or not. And I say or not because sometimes as counsellors we can become quite desensitized to situations. You know, someone could be crying, and some counsellors can feel nothing because they've seen it so many times. So not that I necessarily feel like that, but if I were to feel like that, then I have a space to talk about it with my counsellor. I like going to spas, and I think everyone knows that now. So I book lots of spa breaks quite regularly. I love going to Champney's spa in particular. So I do that quite regularly. Have massages, use their sauna and steam room, and swimming pool. It's amazing. It's really, I love it. I spend a lot of time on the phone with friends, so that distracts me a lot. Talking about life and whatever it may be, and family. I go to a gym as well, and running really is lovely. Like going on a treadmill, you just feel great. You kind of can't. I feel like I can't be in a negative space when I'm running. You know, it's the endorphins that I just feel like I'm on fire by the time I come out. So I do all of that, and in terms of when I'm with clients, I think I've perfected the skill of being able to kind of really be present with the client and really zone into their situation. But I'm always conscious of, whether I bring any of my own stuff in there, and counsellors always have to be aware of that, to be careful that we don't, mix our own stuff with whatever the client's bringing as well.
That's really interesting. Because I always wondered, it must be a bit difficult hearing so many, issues, some heavier than others, some quite traumatic, and not take any of that burden onto yourself.
I think I've learned to trust the universe, God, the higher being, in recognizing that I'm there as a tool to help somebody. But ultimately, the power, as it were, lies in the individual. In terms of their ability to make different choices. To think about some of the suggestions that I've sort of put to them. I think I've moved away from having to rescue somebody. Which probably comes with maturity as well. So it doesn't make me feel too stressed. Of course, I'm human, so if I hear something that's heartbreaking, then naturally I'm stirred by that. If my clients are crying, or something's happened to them, it bothers me. It does, but I think if it bothers me to the extent where it affects my social life, or it affects my time away from this counselling space, then I have a supervisor that I meet with once a month, and I have a counsellor as well. So I've got places to go to share that.
That's really great. To somebody that cannot afford therapy at the moment, but is in a negative headspace and can't really see anything going right for them, what would you say to them?
So first of all, there's low cost counselling services. oftentimes the waiting list is ridiculous, I know, but it is available.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can get counselling for like £10 or £15 an hour.
Okay.
So that's an option for some people. You can go to your GP. When you go to your GP, they will then refer you on to mental health services within the NHS.
Yeah.
And sometimes they give you like leaflets, like CBT leaflets and things like that to kind of help you in the meantime.
Yeah.
There's various like CBT online programs that you can do to kind of help you whilst you're waiting as well. But I suppose in terms of just maintaining a healthy emotional well-being, it's important just to have a nice mix of exercise, diet, a good diet, good people around you. So just making sure you're feeding yourself with positive influences. You know, even things like, I don't know, like watching a TV program that's negative, you know, like, I mean, I don't watch any horror programs.
Same, yeah. It gives me anxiety.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, why would I pay to watch something that's going to make my heart race like that? Even thrillers as well. Like, people love me. Like, when I'm asked to, you know, do you want to go to the cinema? I'm like, what's on?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just, like, recently someone asked me to watch Harriet, the, you know, Harriet Tubman movie. Brilliant movie.
Yeah.
But before I went, I looked at the trailer because I was just like, I know the story about slavery and it's traumatic. And I have to be in the right headspace to watch something that's going to depict it in that way. Yeah. In such an authentic way. So I have to be careful what I feed myself, you know? Yeah. But it was done in a really kind of say respectful way, in a very it was very authentic, but they didn't focus too much on the violent part of it. Yeah. So I was able to watch it.
It's true, I wanted to see that too. It's so like interesting that the things that you watch and feed yourself can have a really strong impact on your everyday life. That is crazy. A lot of people do watch a lot of horrors and thrillers and stuff. Personally, it does give me too much anxiety, but like, how could something affect me that much just because I'm watching it? I've always wondered that.
It's interesting because the thing is, the brain doesn't recognise that it's not real. So it's the reason why you'd watch a horror and your heart's beating really fast, because your brain is just recognising it as you're in this and this is dangerous and like, oh my gosh. And it's the same as I remember watching Fast and Furious at the cinema and then getting in my car afterwards. Yeah. And I had to consciously remind myself, like, okay, Sean, you're not racing. I mean, let's just say I wasn't racing. I just wasn't. But, you know, there was that kind of element of, like, wanting to kind of rev my engine and, like, okay, you're going to really try and get past me. I think I had a KA at the time, so the car's going to go fast. But it was just like, getting past me. I'm like, Charlene, like, you know, this is a movie, you know. And it's things like that, or, you know, if you watch a movie where it's a bit scary and, like, you know, someone's walking in the house and, like, someone's hiding.
I'm telling you.
You know, when you get into your house, then what's happening?
I went to see It and I couldn't sleep for 2 weeks. At my big age. And I was like, oh my God. I had to, like, wash it down with watching the BFG. And I'm 25.
Well, this is the thing. So, and you know, as much as we laugh about these things, I'm like, I need to really be careful what I'm feeding myself here. You know, and that also goes with friendships as well. Like, what types of people am I around? Am I around people that make me feel good? Or am I with people that I'm thinking, well, I've been friends with them for so many years, so I should still be friends with them, even though my heart is saying, they don't make me feel happy.
I'm like that. I attach quality to the length of time I've been friends with somebody.
And you feel like you've been through so much, so maybe, you know, what would be my reason for actually not really being friends with them? But it's like, if we listen to our heart, we're like, this person doesn't make me feel good. Like, this person doesn't, you know, when I'm doing something positive, this person isn't sharing my work on Facebook, or they're not clicking like on anything. It's little things like that. It's like, deep down, you kind of know.
That's a good point. What would you say to somebody that's feeling like they're around unsupportive people and are looking for a new tribe? Like, they're stuck, they're kind of feeling lonely and they don't want to hang out with the people they know. What advice would you say to them?
So the Frozen song, Let It Go, comes to my mind straight away. I would say this, it's not so easy to detach yourself from people that you've been maybe friends with for many years, or family members as well. That can really be challenging. I would say, though, that for the sake of your emotional well-being, to do it in a way, maybe a bit in a strategic way, where maybe you just fizzle it out a little bit, you know? So, or you decide how you love them, in that, you know, can you love them from a distance? Can you be around them if you're around other people, so the focus isn't just you and them? Do you need to always kind of meet up for lunch, or whatever it may be? You know, if they are the type of person that you can actually have a conversation with, to say, look, you know, I really am kind of like reviewing my friendships with people, and I feel like we haven't really spoken that long. I don't know. I suppose you have to kind of work out whether you can have that kind of conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
But oftentimes people can't hear that kind of conversation, so it might be a case of just kind of detaching yourself slightly. So if you're on Facebook with them, you don't have to delete them off Facebook, but you can restrict how often they pop up on your newsfeed, for example, so they don't know that
is handy on Instagram. I'm telling you,
right? They don't know it's been hidden. You haven't deleted them, but you don't have to kind of see them,
their everyday activity.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's things like that you can do. If they ask you to go out on a particular day, and if your heart is saying, I don't really feel like I want to, then say no. I'm doing something else at the moment. And you can be very real and authentic. That something else could be having a bath. That something else could be. Do you know what I mean?
I find like a hard time not wanting to go somewhere and trying to figure out an excuse.
Right.
I'm just like, what can I say? But...
You know what? A good friend of mine, a counsellor, has perfected the art of saying no. And it takes some getting used to. She doesn't give any further explanation. She's just saying in a really nice way, oh, thank you for inviting me, but no, I prefer not to go.
Wow.
And then there's a silence because you're like,
why? Prefer not to go. Yeah, what else are you doing?
But then you're not that brave to ask her because it's like, I suppose it's like not my business really. She just chose not to go.
Yeah.
Now, fair enough. If she keeps saying no, then obviously then you speak to her and kind of say, okay, what's this about? I feel like I'm always asking you to do things, and then maybe an explanation will then transpire. But I think it's about who are we doing things for?
Yeah.
Are we going to the cinema with a friend because a friend's going to be discouraged if we don't go? But we know that kind of film isn't kind of a film that's going to make us feel very good.
Exactly.
Can we own the fact, like I do, that I actually like rom-coms?
Yeah.
And it's like whoever laughs. It's like I leave happy.
Yeah. Same. I just want to go watch Disney movies.
Right. I like nice. Or I like movies where there's a bit of a moral to the story. Where there's I watched a documentary yesterday called Sticks and Stones.
Okay.
It's like, so it's on for 3 days. It was about a guy that's been bullied in his workplace. So I was very careful about this. I was like, do I watch this or not? But it was interesting. And at the very end, he actually, he won, basically. Ooh. He got them back in a kind of professional way. And I was like, okay, I like this. But whilst I was watching it, there was various points where I was like, should I turn this over? Because I could feel my heart beating. I could see the injustice through this documentary. And I thought, this doesn't make me feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So it's about listening to yourself.
Yeah. That's really good. What would you say that you find is the greatest joy that comes from being a therapist?
Definitely when people have that light bulb moment, when you do the work together, you're exploring different things and they're like, wow, I recognise that I'm a gem now, or I recognise that I'm the prize, It's that, I get that kind of warm feeling like, yes,
Yeah.
Also, I'm a sex therapist as well, so we speak a lot about premature ejaculation, delayed ejaculation, orgasm issues, etc., etc. And when someone's been dealing with that kind of stress, so for example, delayed ejaculation, when someone's been in that bubble of stress for so long, and then they come to me and after 6-7 sessions or sometimes less than that, they're free of that. Yeah. And they're ejaculating the way they want to, there's no issues. Yeah. Seeing them smile and knowing that they're going to a relationship where they feel more free, more happy. Like for me, like there's no better feeling. And because I work for myself, it's not, I don't have to go to my manager to kind of tick it against targets or anything like that. Exactly. It's just like I'm allowing people to work at their own pace. Yeah. And there's no kind of, they've been with you for 6 sessions now, so we need an outcome to get paid. It's like, no.
That's really good. That's a good way to look at it.
Working.
Amazing. Yeah. And then lastly, what does it mean to you to give your all or nothing?
I suppose the thing that sort of naturally came to my mind was a word that I've used throughout this podcast really is being your authentic self, whatever that looks like to you. So, if you're going through an audition, knowing that you've given them you, whether they think that that's good enough or not, that you recognise that is, and that's fine, I know, having worked in a particular organisation in the past, not linked to counselling, I remember, there were some very bulliesome people in that workplace, very unkind, the types of people that could bully you, but because there was no evidence, they were like, well, how do we know that this is happening? Because this is your word again, it's that kind of thing. And I remember feeling like all I can do in this situation is just be myself and just be true to who I am. And that got me through. So I think All or Nothing is really just about being true to who you are and being authentic.
Yeah.
And whether people like it, that's really their choice.
Like it or lump it.
Right.
True.
Yeah, it's really down to them. There's that classic line, what you think of me is none of my business. And I like that. I think there's something about it's not about trying to seek approval from other people.
Yeah.
It's about being your authentic self. It's really important.
That's a lovely note to end on. Thank you, Charlene,
Thank you.
for being my guest today.
I think I really enjoyed it.
Me too. I've learnt so much.
Yeah, it's just really interesting. It's helped me to really delve deep into kind of like what I think and how I feel about things. So no, thank you.
You're more than welcome. Thank you. Aww.